This is Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I'm a home birth mum of 2 little boys, a doula in Melbourne supporting birth at home. I'm a mental health nurse and the co-creator of Homebirth Victoria. If you want to learn more about me, the podcast, or my work as a doula, check out www.birthingathome.apodcast. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. I would also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been birthing at home on country for tens of thousands of years prior to the British invasion and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Episode 54 is such a great episode. Today we hear from Brenda in New York. Brenda's first baby Harper was in a breech position, and although she initially planned to have a home birth, she ended up agreeing to a C-section. Her next baby, Hudson, was head down and born on the way to the hospital, an incredible vaginal birth after cesarean story. And for her third baby, Holden, he remained breech. And although she called her midwives, the labour happened so quick that in the end, only her doula and herself, obviously, was present. I initially saw Brenda's brilliant story shared on her Instagram, and I'm so glad to be able to share another breech story and home birth after cesarean story on the podcast. Make sure to share this episode and enjoy. Welcome, Brenda, to Birthing at Home, a podcast. Thank you for joining me. It's 8 p.m. your time in the state of New York.
Yes.
The state of New York. I'm so excited that we found a mutual time to chat about your 3 births. I first saw your birth because did I see a video of Hudson? Is that maybe how I saw it?
Oh, did you? Maybe. I know he's out there too.
Yeah.
No, he is out there.
Yeah, I can't quite remember, but anyway, I'm very excited. So you have 3 little ones. I might get you to give a bit of background to who you are, who is in your family, that kind of thing first.
Yeah. So I'm Brenda. I live in New York. We're in Queens, New York. My husband is Sean. He's a firefighter. I'm from Jersey originally. We met, and then he became a firefighter. So he wasn't leaving New York, so I moved to New York to be with him, and then we got married, and then ended up having kids back to back to back.
Yeah.
And my first was Harper. I'll just get into it.
Yeah.
We were trying to get pregnant, and it took quite a few months, but I didn't know my cycle or anything. And like the whole time we were dating, I think I got off birth control maybe when I was 20. It just didn't make me feel good. So it was never on birth control when I met him. We just took precautions and stuff. And then when we wanted to try, we didn't, I tracked my cycle, but I didn't know anything, and it took a few months, and then finally we got pregnant with her, and then it was all 2021, so end of 2020 into 2021, so just a lot of information circulating around online, and figuring out I didn't think when I got pregnant what kind of birth do I want? It wasn't until I got pregnant that I was okay, well, what kind of birth do I want?
Yeah, okay. So you'd never really, had you heard of home birth before?
I have. I just home births can go wrong too.
So for all the listeners, Holden is only 3 months. So Holden is also joining in.
Yes, and it's his bedtime, so he's trying to fall asleep. I guess the first real home birth story I knew of was Yoga Girl's birth story.
Yeah, cool.
And that kind of made me want to have a home birth, but at the same time I didn't know what it entailed and all that. So the more I went into it, the more I was oh yeah, I do want one. Yeah. But I live in New York, and there's a lot of really, really strict rules for the hospitals. And I, just with my 3rd pregnancy, was just learning that to have a home birth with good midwives, a lot of our midwives are trained to birth in hospitals still.
Yeah.
So you have to like really research your midwives out here.
Totally, yeah.
And then breech births in hospitals are also just unheard of. And Harper ended up being breech. And once I knew she was breech, I had called hospitals and just to see, because I heard like this doctor might or this, and I just wasn't confident enough. And then I haven't tried to look for it, but I listened to a podcast of this woman who had a breech baby, and she did the ECV. I forget if she did or didn't. If she did, the baby went back to, no, maybe she did, and the baby ended up staying head down.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I remember, like, listening to it, and then I was like, oh, I can't have a breech vaginal birth, because her doctor in the story told her, like, you can try for a breech, but if the baby gets stuck, we're pulling the baby out the opposite way, like an emergency C-section. And that just, like, sounds horrifying. I'm sure, like, that's true, but it's just, like, now the third pregnancy and the second breech baby, like, it's not as likely. I don't know, like, you have to, like, pick and choose your risks. But so when I first heard that, I was like, okay, we're doing a C-section kind of thing, because I wasn't confident. I didn't know enough about breech.
Yeah. So initially you had been hoping to have a home birth with Harper?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't going to happen because my husband also wasn't on board. He's a firefighter and doesn't do good with blood and body fluids. So in both my VBACs, you don't see him in either of the videos, which is funny. But like he was driving, and then at home he missed Holden's birth, which was like a perfect scenario for him.
Yeah, yeah.
And me, because I don't want his nervous energy either. Like,
totally, yeah.
So like we understand our boundaries, so it just worked out perfect. But yeah, so with Harper, even though I wanted the home birth, I just knew, since it was the first, like, also he wouldn't be comfortable or ready with it. And I know it's like not his choice, but I wasn't also ready. Like, I also wasn't ready because I didn't know enough yet. I didn't feel like I knew enough.
Home birth is kind of like this mysterious thing when you've when you don't know a lot about it. But then breech, like bum first, it's like very, nobody really knows about that outside of, like, the immediate birth world. And I've heard plenty of stories that in Australia, like women that are wanting to have breech vaginal births in hospital settings, that often they are told they'll have to be in like the surgery room already, in case that they determine C-section is necessary. But often I believe because the skills of vaginal breech birth, like in terms of like how to support that process if it needs to be supported, those skills have been lost. So it happens here as well. Yeah,
and it's hard because I didn't realize, like, I've always heard like breech births need to be hands off, hands off, hands off.
Yeah.
But then, like, when I went over it with my doula for the last pregnancy, like, she was showing me like scenarios from Breech Without Borders.
Yeah.
Where like you do need to be like there's certain scenarios which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh well, I'm glad that Breech Without Borders exists because I wouldn't have known either, and she's done the but I did get a doula with Harper, but it wasn't my doula for the last two, and she was great. Okay. She just lives in Brooklyn, but like a little further from where we are. So like to commute to where I am is a bit of a drive. Yeah. But she was our doula for the first one. It was just like a letdown. Well, we switched to the birthing center and then they kicked us out. So we had to go to like hospital, and I just didn't know enough, wasn't confident enough to even attempt. And then hearing that birth story, there wasn't many breech birth stories that, I feel like the last like 2 years, just, we had kids back to back to back, but like the last 2 years, the internet like blew up with more and more birth stories, which was great. Yeah. And so we switched to a hospital midwife. She was great. for a C-section.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then we scheduled the C-section with Harper for like 39 weeks, I think, and she ended up coming 38 and 5.
Okay.
Which I was so happy because I didn't want to schedule a date. Yeah. And we went in, like water just broke in my sleep, and we finished packing my bag, and we went in, had her like that morning, and then that was that. It was great. The recovery was fine.
Wow.
I didn't know what to expect. I never had contractions really. I think I started getting crampy right as we went into the OR, but we waited for like 5 hours in the hospital for the C-section.
What the heck?
It was just so busy. It was like Mother's Day, and I guess a lot of people went into labor or had scheduled C-sections that weekend. Yeah. So it was, and like I wasn't progressing. Yeah.
I can't believe I never really thought about that. So your body was like, okay, let's go. And then, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I think of it as like my last labor. I guess it was 5 hours by the time Holden was born.
I was going to say, like, you could have had Harper. Yeah.
Yeah, so like nothing happened for 5 hours, and then like I started getting crampy, but it still wasn't anything.
Yeah.
But now I wonder, like, if I started, would it have progressed faster and faster? Interesting to think of.
Yeah.
But it was great. The recovery was great. I almost fell asleep right before they pulled her out.
Wow.
My husband was just rubbing my head. I was tired and hungry, and
of course, yeah.
Meds and stuff. Recovery was fine. I still have like the little shelf till this day.
Okay. Yeah.
But trying to figure out it's fine, but I don't know the exercises for it yet. So I've been trying to look into that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then that was it. And then I think Harper turned like 5 months, and my husband's an only child.
Yeah.
And he's like, I could do this again. So I was like, all right, let's do it now.
Let's do it.
Before you change your mind.
At this time as well, what was coronavirus like at that time for you guys?
They started, I know New York, they made like everybody get the shot. Yeah. I didn't get it, but my husband had to do it for work, and it was just like they were just requiring it. And then they ended up dropping it. And like, I'm a yoga teacher, so the spa that I was teaching at before COVID hit had wanted to get their classes going again, and asked me to come back. And I wasn't pregnant with Hudson yet, but I wasn't getting the shot because I wanted to conceive again. Yeah. I couldn't go back because I refused to get the shot. Get it. And like, but it was just, they were in a sticky situation, and I teach there now. So
yeah, okay, yeah.
Because they ended up lifting that rule, and then
so wild.
Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I needed to stay at business. I was like, no, I get it. You were in a sticky situation. Yeah. I didn't need to go back to teach, but if it was there, I would have gone. Yeah. So it wasn't bad. It was just like sticky situation for everybody.
Yeah.
Just trauma.
And so after Harper and Breech, had that whole journey, like having, like planning the home birth, and then the birth center, and then hospital, and then C-section kind of journey. What, only 5 months on from that kind of experience, had you thought about trying for a home birth like with Hudson, or what was your thought process there?
I just assumed we were going to have to schedule another C-section.
Wow. Yeah.
And if we did, I was going to try and schedule it, like, or just not schedule it and, do my own thing and go into labor again. Yeah. Because I don't like picking a date. Like, I feel like I don't want to mess with Faith. Yeah. And, so I didn't want to mess with Faith, and I didn't want to, I don't know, that's just how I am. So I was like so grateful that my water broke, and it was just the day that she wanted to come. Yeah. So when I went back to the midwife, I found out on a Facebook group for around like Long Island around here that she wasn't delivering anymore. Okay. But when I called to make an appointment with her when I got pregnant, they didn't say anything on the phone, and then like she didn't say anything to me at the appointment. I think I saw her like 2 times for 2 separate appointments, and it was weird. And another couple from like Sean's Firehouse also went to her, and then same thing, didn't know she wasn't delivering, but went to go see her for their second pregnancy.
Yeah.
Never said anything. And then it was kind of like halfway through their pregnancy, they're like, wait, you're not delivering anymore? So it was interesting.
So she really wasn't delivering, but she wasn't being upfront about it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
Bizarre.
Yeah. So it was just weird. It kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I don't know if she just assumed they told me or what. But then I just remember she would tell me like, oh, like go see the other doctors. And I didn't understand. And then I saw a Facebook post and I was like, wait, she's not delivering?
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I had asked her about doing a VBAC. And so she did like give me some confidence to look into it. She was just, but the answer was if you go into labor by 39 weeks, definitely we'll let you try. If not, we'll schedule a C-section.
Wow.
So the limit was 39 weeks. And, you know, I'm kind of in my head already, like, I'm going to do my own thing. So, but I just didn't like the timeline. And then I went to go see the other doctors in that office. And they were nice, but they're medical still. Like,
it's different.
You know, and it was just the same answer, like 39 weeks. Yeah. And this VBAC Facebook group that I was in, a lot of other women who were seeing these, the doctors in this practice, they would just express that they had to fight to push, like, their, like, going into labor, to 41 weeks or 42 weeks. And I will do what I know is right, but I'm not going to fight, you know, so like, I don't want to argue. I'm not good with arguing. I'm not good with confrontation. So it was kind of like, I'm not fighting to get what I want out of this. So I had reached out to the doula that I originally worked with, and then she recommended somebody else who was closer, and we clicked really well. And she was also, both of them were like, you don't need to schedule a C-section if you don't want to. And then I kind of got that in my head. Yeah. So I did more research. I found the VBAC link, and I was like listening to birth stories. And then I just also forgot to mention when I had the C-section with Harper, like towards the end of the pregnancy, they saw, like, so I have the heart-shaped uterus, the bicornuate uterus. But they saw the septum, but they didn't know for sure in that pregnancy. And then when I went into labor and went for the C-section, I had a doctor that I'd never met from the practice. Like, he was just on call that night. And he was great. It was kind of like meant to be. He came in the next day to explain the shape of my uterus. Wow. So, I never got a scan after to like confirm it on paper, but I had a C-section, and I trust him, you know, like I feel like that makes sense, because whole pregnancy, they're like, do you know the shape of your uterus? Or, you know, like at the end they were asking, and I had no idea because I never had a reason to get it checked out.
Yeah, because that makes it more likely to have breech babies, right? If you have, the bicornuate uterus. Yeah. That makes
so now
sense.
Going into the pregnancy with Hudson, I just know it was always like a concern too. Like, is he going to end up breech? If he is, like, what are my options? And thankfully he was head down, because I think if he was breech, I don't know if I would have been ready. To attempt the VBAC with him either. But so we worked with this really great doula, and I knew going into it she had a vacation planned for when I was 30, like my 39th week, and I just assumed I'll either go early, or like I don't think. I said I assumed I was going to go before that, so I was like, it'll be fine, whatever. I know you have a backup doula. I met her a few times, and she was great.
Amazing,
And then as we got closer, and I passed when Harper came at 38 and 5, like, all right, I guess he's coming next week when she's on vacation.
Yeah, wow.
And he did.
Wow. Hi, this is a little shout out for myself today. If you didn't know, I've recently started offering doula services alongside mother blessings, antenatal debrief sessions, and home birth planning sessions, all for births at home in Melbourne, including with payment plans. You can find all the details on my website, www.birthingathome.apodcast, or check out my Instagram, birthingathome_a-doula. So you had the backup doula.
So I had the backup doula.
Yeah.
And we had already I knew what to expect if she wasn't there that week. And
yeah,
that was just part of our agreement and everything.
Yeah. Did you have any fears around having a VBAC, especially, knowing that you'd had a breech? Were there any particular fears apart from, Hudson just being possibly breech at some point?
Yeah, just definitely in the beginning. I was like, what do I do if he's breech? Or is it, and then I looked into the uterus and shape and seeing that it's likely to make breech babies, but I couldn't find VBAC stories with the bicornuate uterus at this point too. This is now 2022. I guess I got pregnant at the end of 2021 going into 2022.
Sure. Yeah.
And I kept looking for stories. There's very far and few, and still with the bicornuate uterus, there's not that much out there. Or you really have to dig.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was digging enough, but I found here and there, but there wasn't a lot. So I think if he was breech, I don't know what I would have done still. Yeah. I don't know if I was ready.
Yeah.
But
maybe Hudson knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. We call him, like I said, he's the second child, chaos.
Yeah.
He's definitely a little rebel too.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
So, and I find it funny that he was head down. And
that was the rebellious
uterus. So I feel like he is that little rebel.
Yeah.
He was in utero as a little rebel, and here he is.
Yeah.
And as he grows, it'll make him a strong guy. So
yeah.
Strong personality.
Yeah. Did Sean have any particular fears or comments or reservations about having a VBAC, or even about the birth of Harper?
He was very happy with the birth of Harper. It was just kind of the safer route for him. And, especially being breech, all he knows is breech is bad. Sure. And he's a firefighter, and he used to work in, so there's the ladder company and the engine company, and the engine company does EMS runs too here.
Wow. So,
and where he worked, it's one of the worst, places in the city or Brooklyn.
Okay.
And they see a lot. Yeah. And so I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, he'll tell me what his fears, and I'm just the type of person where I need to know the whole scenario, and he doesn't want anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all right, well, you can plan your VBAC. I don't want to know anything that could happen that's scary. Just keep it to yourself, kind of thing, and and it works.
Yeah.
And then his mind space is safe, and mine is also protected, and
so he trusts you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he definitely was nervous and scared, but he trusts me.
Yeah.
So after that, with that practice, sorry, I keep getting off track.
That's all right.
But with the practice, with all the doctors and the midwife, I ended up switching. My doula recommended this other doctor, and her back. So I didn't know, I guess this whole time, I think she's asking her circle of doulas, and then I think maybe my backup doula, the backup doula, ended up recommending the OB that I end up switching to.
Okay.
Basically saying he's the best that you're going to get in the city for what you want out of your birth in a hospital setting.
Okay.
And so I switched. Well, I went to go meet him, spoke to him. My doula came with me, and she's great. And Sean, he just works all over. So I went to a lot of appointments by myself. So
Yeah.
when I did, she was available and she came with me.
Yeah.
And
did you have
it
to
was great.
take Harper along as well, or do you have family nearby?
I don't think I took her that appointment, but my in-laws live right next door, so
brilliant.
They helped a lot. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
But yeah, so when I met with him and he like looked at my records and everything, and he was like, "You want me to go into labor by 39 weeks?" He's like, "I'll do 41 weeks and then we'll reevaluate and talk." He's like, "But we're not going to like jump right to a C-section either." He said, "But you have till 41 weeks and then we'll figure it out."
Whoa. And did he say like what, like that's so frustrating to me, because like what's the rationale between 39 and now this doctor's saying 41? Like that's very confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Like two different doctors and different scenarios, and now I'm not having to fight with him to push past 39 weeks. And he didn't say we'll schedule. He said we'll just reevaluate
see what
and go
happens.
Over. Yeah. So it was just refreshing to hear like, okay, like I don't have like a time limit. Yeah. Like there's nothing that's gonna like go off if he doesn't come before this certain time.
So with Harper, so do you remember what that start of labor, that sensation, like I guess in comparison to Hudson, what was that like? So I mean perhaps first, like did you have like any signs of labor in the lead up to Hudson's birth? Like in the weeks before?
Both. I definitely had a lot of Braxton Hicks.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like for me it just felt like a Charlie horse in my stomach.
Okay,
it was just like tighten. And then it was cool because whenever it happened with Harper, I like could feel her head, like you could see her head like poking through my belly.
Yeah.
And Hudson, when it happened with Hudson, I like just knew he was head down because there's no head visible up top, but I didn't know like what side of the uterus he was on. Was he on? Well, no, I'm sorry. She was on my right side. He was on the left side.
Okay.
But her, I never felt move. And with Hudson, I felt it was every time he moved, I would always be so excited to feel it because I didn't experience that with Harper.
Wow.
And so it was cool to like be able to feel movement after not being able to with Harper.
Like the lead up to labor. So you had Braxton Hicks.
So Braxton Hicks. And then with Hudson, I have like, I feel like very like minor contractions here and there, but that like nothing like crazy. But the start of labor, my water broke in my sleep again, just like with her. Broke. Right, her was at midnight. I think he was at 1 a.m. It broke.
Wow.
But like 1 a.m. on the dot. She was midnight on the dot. And then I was like dead in my sleep. But I remember leading up to my, oh, you know what? Actually, I put Harper to bed. And I went to the bathroom after. And I lost my mucus plug.
Okay.
So that was like 7, 8 o'clock. And I remember that was the week my doula was on vacation. So I texted the backup doula. And I was just like, just FYI, I lost my mucus plug. Because I read about it. I didn't know what it was. And then when I lost it, I was like, oh, that's the mucus plug.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
So I texted her. And I was like crampy, but it wasn't anything. I took a bath because I got, with all my pregnancies, I get restless legs really bad.
Okay.
This last pregnancy, I started taking magnesium supplements. Like I just put it, I had droplets. I put my water in. It was great because I didn't get it as bad.
Wow.
But so I texted her. I said, I know it could mean nothing, but could mean something. I don't know. But because I'm 39 and I think it's 39 and 2, I'm just letting you know. So get your rest, whatever. We'll figure it out. And then just going back to the doctor that we switched to, when I met him, he just said to have successful VBAC, like unmedicated VBAC, which is what I wanted. He said just labor at home as long as possible.
Amazing.
So once he said that,
you took it seriously.
Cool. Yeah. And that day, actually, before I lost my mucus plug, I did get a cervical check from him because at this time I didn't, but that, like, I feel like because of the VBAC, I wanted to know where I was at, so I got a check. I think it was like almost 2 centimeters that day.
Yeah.
And then I lost my mucus plug, and then my water broke at 1 a.m. And then I called my doula to let her know, and she was like, all right, well, let me know when you want me to come over. And like, I don't know. You know, I was like, all right, I'll call you back in a little while. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But, and I pretty much would say I had contractions from when my water broke on. And like when I was trying to go to bed that night, my husband had a CAT scan that day.
Okay.
And after I lost my mucus plug, I went down and I was like, well, let's go to bed in case anything happens tonight. Because he wasn't feeling good from the dye, from CAT scan. Like, he was out of it. And that was kind of like the last thing, too, that like we wanted the baby to wait for him to get that done and not have to schedule. And he waited and then came right after.
Yeah.
So I was just like, let's go to bed. And he was like, are you having contractions? I was like, no. I was like, I know you don't want to hear it. I said, something came out, and I was like, I don't want to explain it to you because I don't want to gross you out. But I was like, he's coming. Yeah. And so we did. We got ready, went to bed. He knocked right out. I couldn't sleep because he was moving like so much.
Wow.
Like he moved all throughout the whole pregnancy, but I remember like that night I couldn't go to sleep because he was just all over the place.
Yeah.
And like both times with the water breaking, it was like I was in my sleep, but I could like feel it like pop like the balloon, like I could hear it inside my body, which was really cool. Yeah. And then water broke. I went downstairs. I just put on like the period undies that I had. Called the doula. Didn't know if I wanted her to come yet or not. And then my friend had like sent me a Snapchat or something. And it was like past 1 a.m. I forget what time it was. Probably like an hour after my water broke because I tried to lay on the couch to go back to sleep. And I was just too excited and nervous at the same time because I didn't know what a vaginal birth would be like either. So my friend was up, so I was like, let's talk. I was like, I'm having contractions, but like I'm able to breathe and talk through them. So we ended up being on the phone for like 2 hours.
Wow.
I threw up just water. I like ran to the bathroom and while we were on the phone to throw up, and then it was fine, which I didn't know that was a thing that could happen in labor.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just got to a point where they were getting a little closer, but they were like, I guess they were like 10 minutes apart, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if that's close or far because I don't really. I know they're different for
how
everybody.
long did it like? Yeah, I guess it also has to do with like how long the contraction lasts for.
Yeah, well, the whole time they were never longer than like a minute.
Yeah,
they're like 45 seconds to a minute long.
Yeah, 10 minutes is still like, I guess if they're consistently coming at 10 minutes, that's one thing. But then, like 10 minutes otherwise is probably still like a bit. Not far apart, but like it's not like super close together either.
Yeah, I forget it was like 5. I think it was 5 minutes. It might have been 5 minutes apart because I remember I was like, should we go? Like, should I call my doula? Like, what do I? Yeah.
Yeah. And was Harper going to be cared for by your in-laws?
Yes, because at this point we were planning to go to the hospital. Yeah. And I think finally I just got off the phone with my friend. I'm like, I'm just going to call Malky, the doula, and like, I'm just going to have her come over and then we'll figure out from there. Yeah. So I called her. She got here maybe like an hour after I called her. And I didn't wake Sean up. I I think our deal was that I wouldn't wake him up till I was like ready to go, or I was like, I just wanted to be by myself for a while. And not like him panicking.
Yeah.
Hi. Daughter just walking in.
That's all right.
You want to say hi? So I just didn't want him to panic.
Hi, Harper.
You right? Are you tired? So, but I came up because we didn't have the car seat in the car yet for the hospital. So I was like, just so you know, I'm in labor, but we're not ready to go. But I'm telling you the list of things that we need to get done before we go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I was like, Malky's coming over, so I don't want you to like wake up and be alarmed that she's here.
Yeah.
And he didn't wake up right away, which was great. I think he took up like 10, 20 minutes, like went back to sleep for 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then came down, started getting the car seat because it was in our attic. It's just like and my hospital bag wasn't packed. I just had piles of things throughout the house. But like I'm not neat or organized.
Yeah.
So that's just like how I organize in my head.
Yeah.
So then I went to go get him, and he came down, and Malky, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Malky came over, and I got in my bathtub for a little bit. Harper was still sleeping throughout this whole thing, and then when she started to wake up, I think she wasn't up yet, and I remember feeling like I can't wait till she wakes up so that she can like kind of be a part of this.
Yeah.
And she started to wake up, and then my contractions got like I was like falling to my knees. Wow. They were still 5 minutes apart, but when they came, I was like falling to my knees. Like I couldn't stand. Yeah. So, and it was just like I was fine. Sean went to go get her out of her room and changed her diaper, brought her into our room, which is only like 5 feet away from our room. Yeah. And I looked at him and I was like, you got to take her to your parents now.
Yeah.
We're going to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, really? Like, weren't you just fine like 2 minutes ago?
Yeah. That's the thing about contractions as well. Like the timing, like it doesn't really mean a whole lot because it can change just like that. Yeah.
So he was just like, wait, what? And, I gave her a kiss, and then he ended up bringing her next door. Yeah. And so then he brought her next door, and I remember looking at my doula, too, before this happened, saying, I think maybe he came back, and then I had, like, the poop feeling.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, we have to go to the hospital. And I did end up, like, pooping in the toilet a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
But it was just, like, I don't know, like, I feel like there's, like, the poop feeling that you, like, regular poop feeling, and then there's, like, the before the baby's gonna happen. Like, it's definitely a little different feeling. Yeah. Like, you just know. So I was like, we have to go. And then she just looked at me in the eyes. She was like, would you be comfortable in the hospital right now, or not, or not, like, just like to make sure that I was ready. Yeah. And I think she didn't think I was as far along as I felt either, just because of the way things changed so fast and everything. Course. And then I was like, yeah, we have to go. Yeah, right. So, it took us like 40 minutes to get downstairs because I was so scared of every time it was coming. I didn't want to fall down the stairs and everything. So finally we got downstairs. He brought the car out in front of the house, got everything in the car, and we go. And then they were still coming, but they were like, it wasn't as bad in the car.
How long was it to the hospital? Like, how long was it going to take?
40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, to go, like, we have a hospital close to here, but it's not really a good hospital.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So to go to, like, a decent hospital for us, like, all the good ones are 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
50 minutes with traffic, probably.
Yeah.
And it was a Wednesday morning in the summer, and it was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So I think it was just mostly work traffic that we were hitting, but it wasn't, I think it still took like 40, 42 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I think he just noticed my temperament was a little bit like lighter and everything. So he's like, okay, I have time. Like I was definitely more at ease than when I was at home.
Yeah.
And I forget like at what point we were in the car, and then Malky, I had like hemorrhoids here and there. Throughout that pregnancy, which I didn't have with Harper, and they like freaked me out. And then I didn't know what they were still, even like when I was in labor. So at one point she was like, can you feel a head? And I was too afraid to feel myself. I was like, you tell me.
Yeah, wow.
Like, touch me, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, even though I was set on having a VBAC, like, I think because I didn't know what a vaginal birth would be like, I was too afraid to like know if he was coming. And like this whole time too, like I'm worried about Sean.
Yeah.
So even though I'm in labor, like I was worried about him. And him not passing out.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just see if he needs help.
Oh, what is this?
No, you're gonna sleep on your bed. You can come say hi. Come here.
Hi, Hudson.
This is Hudson.
Is it bedtime?
Yeah. Say it's bedtime.
That sounds very relaxing. Hello.
Yeah, you can fall asleep here. I'll just put you in your bed though. You wanna lay down?
And you can listen to Mama and me. Oh, you got a dinosaur.
Yeah.
What kind of dinosaur is it?
What kind of dinosaur is it?
Green.
Green?
Yeah.
Is it a T-Rex?
Yeah.
What? That's very cool. So we're trying to get your doula to see if there was a head. Yeah.
And rewind back to the house real quick when I had to poop. I'm pretty sure he was crowning at the house.
Wow.
I didn't check. I know she also had asked me to check at home, like after I pooped and cleaned up and everything, but I was too afraid.
Yeah.
Here, I just like put my hand on and I was like, nope, I don't feel anything.
Wow.
But I didn't really feel for anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then we're in the car, same thing. She's like, check to see if you feel a head. And I was like, you check me. And I also forgot that when I called her, she had just been getting over a cold that week. So there was another backup doula.
Oh my goodness.
In case I didn't want her to be around.
Sure, yeah.
But I was just like, it's okay. You're just not going to touch the baby. So that's also why I think she was like backing off when I asked her to check. But then finally in the car, she was like, take your pants off. And he flew out.
Yeah.
So that's also why she was just like, respecting what I had asked her to do. But I was like, no, but you need to be here.
Yeah.
I know you're getting over it. And like, she was sure that it was past like being contagious or whatever. And I was just like, no, I just need you here though.
Yeah.
I'm the other doula. I'm friends with her now too. We haven't like met face to face, but we chat a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's just like fun. Like they're all great.
Yeah.
But I was just more comfortable with somebody I had met.
Yeah, of course.
So it was just funny. She was just like, all right, take your pants off. Like, let's see. And then like within minutes, he was like flew out in the car.
Wow. And
we were
how far away? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so what happened? So were you like still driving, or did Sean pull over, or?
He just drove. He kept, because we were only a block away. So he just, the whole car ride to Malky was recording because I said get all the footage you can. But also used one of our phones to call the hospital to let them know we were on our way.
Yeah.
And then when he was born, like called them to let them know, like to have the nurses outside ready to take us in. So she was doing all of that.
Yeah.
The whole car ride.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
She was phenomenal. Yeah, and so he just kept driving, and even though like that was the closest hospital, it's just he knows from the firefighter world that in case of emergency, if you call 911, like they're not going to take you where you want to go. So I think even though we were right there, he wasn't gonna, like, it would have just been quicker to get there rather than like wait.
Yeah.
But same thing, like if we were a little bit further, I think he would have, you know, if everything was fine, we probably would have still just made our way. Because if you stop, there's like certain things that they won't take you to the hospital that you want to, even though he's a fireman, he could like be like, well, we want to go here.
Yeah.
Like they can't do that. They can't do any favors. They have to take you to the closest hospital, and just where we are, the two closest hospitals aren't the greatest.
Yeah. Okay.
So
what was that moment like that you like just give birth in a car? It's like, do you remember what was going through your mind?
That I did it.
Yeah.
I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
A couple, maybe like a week before, a few days before too, my friend has like this pendulum necklace that like you say yes or no and it'll like go side to side or circle. I forget which was which, but I remember I texted her one night because I think I'd passed like the point I was pregnant with Harper, like when my water broke.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you ask it, like, am I gonna have a VBAC? And it said no.
Oh, what?
And so, and like, I don't know why I did that to myself.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, just tell me what it says. I want to know. Like, I just wanted to see. And it said no. And I was like, oh, so I'm going to have a C-section. So at one point, too, I was like, do I just schedule a C-section?
Wow, based on the...
But I didn't say it out loud to anyone. I kind of just sat on it. And then I was like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, why am I listening to a pendulum?
Yeah.
But, so...
but that's so good.
Yeah. So it was nice, like, also in my head, like, in that moment, I was like, the pendulum was wrong. Don't listen to the pendulum. It's not always right.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. And so, like, what the heck? Because, like, home birth, at least in Australia, home birth is, like, pretty... I guess you could say rare, like only like 0.5% of births are at home, but like car births, like births in like transit, like I don't know what the stats are, but I would say that they're probably rarer than home birth.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's
like,
funny too. I had listened to some VBACs and how, or I think also just birth stories in general that I was listening to. And how they almost didn't make it to the hospital or they made it to the lobby. Yeah. And I don't like, I have a really, like, my gut is really like spot on. So I usually just, you know, go by my gut. Yeah. So like, I don't know if I manifested it too, or if like, I just knew that was going to happen. Because, like, I remember, like, every time I listened to those stories, too, I'm like, oh, I wonder if that could be me. Like, I just, like, felt connected to it. I don't know if that sounds weird or not. But, like, I feel like something in me knew. Yeah. But I never said it out loud either because I was just like, do I want that? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. But even, like, you know, in that rebellious kind of... thought about Hudson, like, you know, it's pretty rebellious. Like, you were like, okay, I'm going to be having this hospital birth, I'm going to have a VBAC, and then he was like, nope, we're not going there.
Yeah. And it's like his personality, like, it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was just great. The hormones and everything. I was like, wow, I did that.
Yeah. Where did you, so you're still connected, like, did you still stay, like, connected, like, how long until the placenta was born? Like, what happened with that?
So that, he's still connected. I was able to cut the cord myself in the car.
Badass.
So, yeah, I guess, I don't think it was that long. Like, definitely not as long as I would have liked to. And my doula made sure that I was able to cut the cord myself. Yeah. Which is cool because Sean doesn't do body fluids, like you said. So like with Harper, he didn't cut hers. Yeah. So I was like, all right, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So I was able to do Hudson's. And then he ended up doing the rest of Hudson's in the hospital because I feel like at this point he's like, I've seen it all and, you know, made it through this. So I could do anything now. Yeah. So it was cool because I was just like, and when he told me, I was like, you cut the cord? I didn't realize that he did. And he didn't pass out either.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We're stronger with every baby. I mean, being in the same room as a C-section, like I've seen C-sections and I would have thought like, Sean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, well, he also like, he had to walk in like covering.
Oh,
They, with Harper too, they were going to tell me when they started.
okay.
And they didn't, but I'm happy that they didn't because I was so scared. I'd never gotten a surgery done on my body ever. So I was terrified. And then on top of that, I was getting the shakes from the spinal tap.
Of course. Yeah.
So it was just like, I was terrified.
Yeah.
And then he just didn't want to see anything.
Yeah.
So he like walked in. I remember him walking to the OR, and then I'm like waiting for them to tell me that when they were going to start, and they never told me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's good. It's better off that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now then with Hudson, he's definitely seen more body fluid and stuff, and he was fine. He was great.
Yeah. Holy moly! Oh my goodness! And so how long do you say that Hudson's labor was?
I say from like the time my water broke, from 1 a.m. to he was born at 9:10.
Yeah.
It was like 8 hours.
Yeah. Okay. That's still a pretty like, average, I think, kind of time, especially second time labor. Yeah. Wow. And so Harper and Hudson were pretty relatively close together. And so what's the gap then between, or how old was Hudson when you decided to have Holden?
So Hudson was just turned 1.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So he just turned 1. So we weren't even trying, like Sean was kind of done having kids.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the third would be a discussion in a few years. But I had pretty regular cycles.
Yeah.
And then I had like one weird period. Like that last August, I guess. I didn't have my period for like 6 weeks, but I was always like exactly 4 weeks on the dot.
Yeah.
So it was very late. And like same thing, I'm not on birth control. We just pull out.
Yeah.
And then we try not to do it around my ovulation,
Yeah.
So so then that period was off, and then I knew exactly when I ovulated this time, like when I was pregnant. But we only got intimate like one time that whole cycle.
Yeah, wow.
And it was like 2 days before my ovulation. So, which like we never had that happen with Harper or Hudson. And I know I was like, and I think I ovulated like earlier than I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Like not like just like than usual.
Yeah.
So my periods were a little off. So it was kind of like a freak accident.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Yeah.
And so after, so you've had, that 1 year, I guess, to think about like, in a few years, if we have another baby, what kind of, what would you plan? Was it then that you thought, oh, I could actually have a home birth? Like, did you feel confident that would be an option for you, or how did that come up?
As soon as I knew I was pregnant, I was like, we're doing this at home.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes so much sense. You've just proved to yourself like how easily you could have had Hudson at home.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the way he came, like even though it was like 8 hours, I feel like I did go from like nothing, like 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Like with him, with my labor.
Yeah.
And then I feel like with his labor too, like I feel like I was holding him in. Like I feel like he would have came at home if I let it happen and let go.
Yeah.
But because I was so concerned about my husband the whole time, And, you know, it didn't affect, like, it's fine. Like, I'm not, like, it's, like, not traumatized. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't regret thinking about my husband the whole time. Like, we know how we work.
Yeah.
And he was letting me do my thing. And even though he was letting me do my thing, I was still worried
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to pass out or anything. But I feel like this time around, I was like, I know you're not going to be okay with this. We're doing this at home.
Yeah.
And, like, not as concerned, because now that I know that he's seen it all and he didn't pass out.
Yeah.
Not that I want to test it and make him pass out, but I was like, we're going to make this work out.
Yeah.
And then his biggest thing is just if we had to transfer or call 911, he doesn't like the hospitals nearby.
Sure.
And they won't, like I said, even whether you're driving or whatever, like at home, like they're not going to take you where you want to go.
Yeah.
So
was there, like, is it expensive? Like, what does it cost to have a home birth where you are?
So I don't know. I was planning a free birth.
Yeah, wow.
So this time around,
yeah.
You know, I called my doula. I was like, so we're pregnant again. Obviously, I want you back.
Yeah.
And this was like the the doula we originally hired had a baby last year, and then I like called well, I'm friends with all of them now, but I called Malky back. I'm like, I had another baby. I want you to be here. I want to do a free birth.
Yeah.
So I was planning to go that route.
How did you come up with free birth? Like, how had you like heard stories about the free birth, or?
I was listening to the Free Birth Society even before I got pregnant again.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, if we get pregnant again, I'm doing a free birth.
Yeah.
I basically did it in my car.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally.
Rewind back to Hudson is that after we got in the hospital, I did get talked into Pitocin, but I didn't know about that for the placenta.
Wow.
You know, so this time around I was like, I don't want anything, like no medication at all.
Yeah.
And I did have to get stitched. I had like a 2nd degree tear.
Okay.
With him.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, it was definitely, it hurt.
Yeah.
I remember like recovering, like I couldn't sit on the floor. Like it was a lot. I bled for almost 12 weeks, I think, after, which was a really long time. Like after a C-section, I only bled for like 2 weeks and then I was done.
Wow.
So that was hard. And then, so then I had the Pitocin to get the placenta out, and I didn't like know about all of that. You know, like that's just something I didn't read, and the doctor was like, oh, we usually do this, and it was just routine, and I was like, all right, go ahead. Like, I got my unmedicated feedback. It was fun. Like, I don't regret it, but I just was like, I'm not going to do this again for the next one. And he was already disconnected. So then with Hudson, I was planning free birth, and I was just talking to my doula the whole time, and she had done Breech Without Borders training.
Amazing.
And, you know, so I was like, are you comfortable with the free birth and helping me if the baby's breech? And she's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had conversations on what could go wrong, and just like very open conversations, which I think is important. Like, if you're going to commit to something, free birth, like you have to
take responsibility.
Yeah. For whatever happens.
Yeah.
So we were doing that, and pregnancy was great. And then I think around 28 or 30 weeks, he was breech.
Yeah.
I went back to, and I knew before like seeing the scan that he was breech. I could just feel his head, and I was just so familiar from Harper.
Yeah.
But he also moved around a lot, so I was like, maybe he'll.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like Harper, she didn't move at all, so he never flipped.
Yeah.
And, I went to like the place that I got scanned for Hudson. I went to back to the same doctors. They were great. There was a female OB that he brought on board when I was pregnant with Hudson, but she I forget, she just had the baby or she came on, but then I had Hudson and then she had a baby.
Yeah.
So I never met her till this pregnancy. And most of my visits were with her because he got really booked up really fast within the last few years. And she was amazing. We just like, same thing, just had open conversations. And like I said, I'm not good with, just confrontation or like I'll stick up for myself, but I don't want to have to fight or I don't want to be told you need to do this or you need to do that either. So they're just really good with that there, and they just tell you how it is, and she explained the hospital because I'd always be like, what if the baby's breech? What if the baby's breech? Like that's just always on my mind now whenever like the last two pregnancies.
Yeah.
And like when I did see the original OB there, same, he's also very easy to talk to about it. And same thing, basically told me that the only way I could deliver breech in the hospital is if you were having twins and twin B was breech. And I was like, oh, not what I want to hear. No. And, I just want to like at least know, like if I changed my mind and wanted to go to the hospital,
what would
I have
be possible?
You guys.
Yeah.
And, the female OB kept telling me too, like, basically told me that I could show up to the hospital in labor with breech and deny the C-section, but like I'm not going to be respected by the nurses and everything because now I'm putting them in a bad position, and not because they want to, it's just they're not allowed to. So now like I'm putting them in a bad position, and I like get what she's saying, but I don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what she was telling me.
Yeah.
And just throughout the whole pregnancy, like recommended to get a midwife. But in New York, it's kind of like hard to find good midwives too. So.
And especially, probably with the breech training as well.
Yes.
Because here in Australia, like if you, private midwives that attend home births often will support like a breech at home if it's sort of like not known, like if it just happens to happen in labor. I've heard like they're not gonna like be like, oh, it's a breech, run away kind of thing. But certainly if like you've done scans and the baby's being breached, that would be considered like high risk. Even though it's just a variation and it's they just need the skills, but if you've not got the skills, but like the system
if needed,
it's and so I mean women choose free birth. Well, is it a choice if they can't access midwife, like if they want midwifery care, but then baby's breech and then the midwife can't support them, then they are kind of forced into taking that radical responsibility and birthing without support because that's the only way. Otherwise they'll be able to have a vaginal or a physiological breech baby at home. So it's very tricky.
I didn't even think about that with the free birth option because like part of me wanted to have midwives, but I couldn't. Like I think when we first started looking, a lot of them were already booked up too.
Sure. Yeah.
The ones that like my doula recommended, and I just told her, I'm like, just recommend people to me, and some other ones that she recommended. Yeah. Either just didn't get back to me or what, like life happens. Yeah. So just it wasn't working out. Yeah. So I was almost it was like 2 days before the due date. Yeah. And my husband were in bed, and he just knows my plans. Yeah. And it's just like, do what you gotta do. I don't want to hear anything scary. Just, I trust that you're going to do the right thing. Yeah. And I am very realistic. So, and then, like I said, just had a lot of conversations with our doula just about what could go wrong and what the plan is if it does. Yeah.
Were you planning to have Harper and Hudson present?
Yes.
Yeah.
until I couldn't, unless they got in the way.
Yeah,
It was
of
just
course.
kind of like we were just going with the flow. Like I wanted them to be here.
Yeah.
And so 2 days before my due date, we were going to bed, and Sean's like, "So who's coming when you go into labor?" And this woman I babysat for years ago, so she had 2 free births at home. I babysat her first baby, then she had a second baby shortly after, and then 2 free births like within like the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So I connected with her again and was talking to her throughout the pregnancy too, just like asking questions, because like if you have free birth, like what do I need at the house, or like in case of emergency that we can handle, like what do I need to have on hand. There's like my whole dining room table was filled with just like stuff to have a free birth at home that like midwives would typically have.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So it was just a lot of like, what do I need here and there, and just having a lot of conversations with her too.
Yeah.
On like kind of like what to expect if this or that happens.
Yeah.
And she gave me like chuck pads, just like a bunch of stuff that you would need here.
Yeah.
And I guess she kind of, following her on Instagram, I was like, all right, I should try for a free birth. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 days before my due date, Sean was asking who was going to be here. And I explained like my friend Kelly, who I babysat for, and Malky.
Yeah.
And Malky had a friend who like offered to be here, like if we needed help with the baby or anything.
Yeah, cool.
Or myself, just as backup. But she, so I told him that too, just also to help put him at ease.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, no midwives? And I was like, what did you think a free birth was? Yeah. I'm like, I keep saying we're doing a free birth, and he had no idea what that entailed. So it was funny because I'm like about to go to sleep, so I grabbed my phone. I put my phone down for the day, and I like grabbed it, and I was like texted Malky. I'm like, I guess we need midwives for Sean. And she was on it though. She was on it. The next morning, she called me. One of the midwives that we were looking into in the beginning, who were booked up, happened to free up and trusted. They don't like, I feel like many midwives don't like to take on late patients for home births. But somehow with them, thankfully, it felt right.
Yeah.
So they took me on.
Yeah.
And I ended up, that was Wednesday night. Spoke with them on the phone Thursday morning, and Thursday afternoon they were at the house getting all of our paperwork and checkup and everything. Yeah, and I was still seeing our like OB up until, actually I think maybe it's been it was like 4 weeks since my last visit with the OB, and then I was gonna go if I was comfortable. Not comfortable, but just if I had time with 2 kids on top of that.
Course, yeah.
But I ended up not going because it was just too much going on.
Yeah.
I guess. This is broken nipple. So, and it was just, I think I was going to call and go the next, on my due date if I didn't go into labor yet.
Yeah.
But then it worked out. I didn't have to go anywhere. The midwives came over, which was really nice. Yeah. And they're like, you would have had this your whole pregnancy if you were able to, hire us, but, just joking around. Yeah. But we're like, you were booked up.
Yeah.
And I didn't know with Harper, I had emailed them. They had my email from when I emailed them, just looking around for home birth midwives.
Yeah.
In the very beginning of my pregnancy. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is very cool because what experiences you've had since that initial reach out, and how different things, how your path would have been so much different, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It was like a full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like experienced with Breech,
Yeah.
and they did the Breech Without Borders training, so it worked out.
Yeah.
And then so then we ended up hiring them the day before my due date.
What the heck? That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. I do not think that in Australia you would find any midwife, any registered midwife, because it's technically illegal to be unregistered and practice as a midwife in all of Australia. But I still don't, like you would not, like that is so lucky.
Yeah, that's what my everybody says. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. It worked out.
Yeah.
Somebody was looking out after us.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Sean had no idea what the freebirth was.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't work out when we were originally looking for midwives.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, all right, we're doing a freebirth. I haven't, like you said, I have no other choice.
Yeah.
And unless I want a C-section.
Yeah.
And because I'm not going to fight and put anyone else or myself in a messy situation in the hospital either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they were planning to come back Sunday for a checkup if I didn't go into labor.
Yeah.
And then I did go into labor on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was 40 and 2. I passed my due date, which was really cool. I also, throughout this whole pregnancy, was like, in case it's the last one, I kind of hope I make it to my due date because I never have. And I liked being pregnant. I had a really good pregnancy. So, so I liked being pregnant and was hoping to make it to my due date.
Yeah.
So I did. And I was actually 2 days late, which was nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did your waters break again as a sign of labor?
Yes, but not the same way.
Okay.
Not the full pop and gush.
Yeah.
It was just trickling.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I forget. I think I got up to pee or something. And this time it was 5 a.m. So it was cool that it wasn't midnight.
Yeah.
I did go to sleep and then I had almost a full night's sleep.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you have any concerns around, or had you thought about laboring during the day, especially because it would have been summer for you guys?
Yeah. I didn't. I think because it went the same way twice.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be the same the third time around.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and it was fun. I just I have morning babies.
Yeah.
So I was like, will I have a morning baby?
Yeah.
Will I not?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's all different.
Yeah.
They're all different every time. But yeah, so 5 a.m. my water started trickling. I think I got up to pee and it was just different.
Yeah.
And then it was just leak. I remember I put my underwear back on and I was just leaking still. And I was like, oh, I guess my water is breaking.
Yeah.
So I called my doula. I was like, Maki, I was like, come over. She was like, you want me to come now or you want to wait? I said, no, just come now, just in case.
Yeah.
I forget what her Instagram handle is, but she had 5 breech vaginal births. I forget. She had 4 or 5. I forget how many kids she has.
Oh, okay.
But her first baby was head down, and I found her on a podcast, and I went to go find her Instagram. And then she had 4 or 5, whatever it was. The rest of her babies were all breech.
Yeah.
And where I forget what state she was in, but the doctor was willing to do a vaginal breech birth, and she kept having breech. She has a heart-shaped uterus also.
Yeah.
And from her stories, her labor got faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
So I think then once I heard that, I was like, okay, so this is gonna be fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm confident. We're gonna do this breech vaginal birth. It's gonna be another VBAC. It's gonna be quick.
Yeah.
Painful and quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fine. I have a high pain tolerance, so I was like, I would rather it be quick anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If I had a choice.
Yeah.
So then, so water trickled, called Maki. I was like, just come over, just in case anything switches fast, and knowing this other girl's
stories.
5
Yeah.
brief births. Like, it sounds like it might go fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she came over. I didn't wake Sean up again, but I couldn't go back to sleep because now I'm like, okay, he's coming,
Yeah.
he's coming. This is the day.
Yeah.
I was just like too excited. The kids were sleeping, and Malky came over, and then I think I went up before she got here, just saying like, my water's trickling. Malky's coming over. You don't have to. I think I told him just stay sleeping.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
back to sleep, and he did. And then I did, when Malky came over, I ate because I was starving. And then I tried to go back to sleep. And I think I did. I slept maybe for like another hour.
Yeah.
And I texted the midwives because I think they were supposed to come at noon, and I said, can you come over at 8 instead? I think they gave me the option of 8 or noon, and then I was just like, my water's trickling, just come over for a checkup in case it happens to be good timing for a baby to come.
Yeah.
So they came over at 8 for a checkup. Nothing was really happening. Like, I was crampy, but I wouldn't say contractions yet.
Yeah.
So I went back to sleep after that for maybe an hour. I think I was just too like excited that he was coming.
Yeah.
And also, like, I was excited and like nervous of the unknown.
Yeah.
But not in the same way like I was with Hudson. And I feel like I was more like concerned for my husband with Hudson.
Yeah.
This time it wasn't. It was just all about me.
Yeah.
So then I came back down. I was gonna maybe eat again because I remember too, the day, like going into that night that my water broke with him, I had so many carbs that day. And like, not purposely, like I don't feel like I was craving it, but it was just, I was hungry.
Yeah.
And then like my only options wherever I was, if I went to go get something like takeout, was for carbs, like a place that only made grilled cheese on bagels.
Yeah.
And like, I like a bagel, but bagels are a lot. Like, I don't like them every day, or like for grilled cheese. But I was so hungry, so I was like, whatever, just give me grilled cheese on a bagel.
Yeah.
And then we had like burgers with the bun, and I think I had pasta for lunch. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
But then when I went into labor with Hudson, I didn't need to fuel up.
Yeah.
Like, I was fueled. I ate nothing.
Yeah.
Leading up to his birth. And then with Holden, I remember waking up and I was starving, so I like had eggs and toast, and then I was good until he came.
Yeah.
And then I was starving.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he came, or my water broke, trickled, ate, went back to sleep after the midwives came, and they're like, all right, so just call us when things start to happen.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
So they left.
Kind of thing. So they left, but they're only 15 minutes away.
Oh, cool.
So they're not far, like the hospital.
Yeah.
So I had gotten like groceries delivered that morning just to have like fruit and snacks, for anybody and the kids.
Yeah.
If they needed, in case it was long or whatever. And I was like washing the fruit and everything, making all the kids breakfast, just cleaning and getting ready. And then I was like having contractions, but they weren't bad.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't timing them either. Maybe I was just looking at the clock. Maybe they were 5 minutes apart. It was the same, but not bad.
Yeah.
And then it just got to one point where like, I just had to like pause and like lean on something, like bent over.
Yeah.
For a moment, and then it was fine. Like, it wasn't really, like I said, like dropping to my knees.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and I had a birth pool, so I wanted to set it up in our room.
Yeah.
So Sean and Malky went to like go try to set it up, and we didn't have the right fittings for it or something.
Yeah.
So I called my friend Kelly, the free birther, to see if she had anything, and she ended up with her 4 boys dropping off like the thing that we needed.
Yeah.
And she was like, let me know when things progress. Like, my husband's coming home from work, and then I'll come over. And I came back in, another contraction, and my Malky was like, should I call midwives? And I was like, I don't know, like, should we? Like, I just wasn't sure because it was, like, fine.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel like it was time yet.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was like, just do it, I guess. That's fine. They can hang out or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she called them, and we started making our way up to go fill the tub upstairs. And as soon as I got upstairs, I was falling to my knees.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was pooping myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like couldn't control it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, the kids were still here, and just in the background you just hear Harper talking to Sean. Mama, Dada, I smell something. Did Mama poop? Like, just like so innocent.
Yeah.
And like, I like that. I do wish we had somebody recording.
Yeah.
It was just so funny. Like, I would love to relive that moment because I'm just in pain.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say pain, but like full on labor.
Yeah.
And he's about to be here, and you just hear her.
voice.
So I'm like breathing through the contractions and laughing at the same time.
Yeah.
And then Hudson's like trying to get in my face.
Yeah.
So he just got to be a little bit too much. And then I was pooping myself too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sean was like, all right, I'm gonna take him next door to my mom.
Yeah.
And dad, and like, he didn't think that the baby would be born while he was gone less than 5 minutes to drop them off.
Yeah.
And I remember like just yelling like, my body's pushing. Like, I wasn't even pushing, my body was just doing it. And I didn't feel that with Hudson either.
Yeah.
He flew out. What do they call it? The
fetal ejection reflex.
Yes. I feel like that was Hudson, and this one, maybe it was the same, but I felt my body pushing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I never felt the pushing sensation with Hudson, and this time it was like, no, he's pushing.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so he went to go bring them next door, and we couldn't get water in the pool. Then we tried to get water in my bathtub. I wanted to be in the water because then I just started feeling like, you know, I just wanted warm water in my back.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, all right, we'll just go in the shower. Then I'll just turn the shower on and let the water hit my back while it's going on. And because I still felt like it could be like, he'll be here in 5 minutes or he'll be here in 2 hours. Like, even though like I felt the pushing, like, I don't know. I've heard of stories pushing for how long, you know, hours or not at all. And from the time we called the midwives to when he was born, it was 11 minutes.
Wow.
So they didn't even make it.
Oh my gosh, so it technically was a free birth.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so that was while Sean was also next door
with the kids,
wow.
bringing, like, dropping them off. He literally just was like, and his mom knew I was in labor.
Yeah.
So she saw the doula come and everything. So she's like, the whole time, like, let me know if you need me or whatever. So I'm here whenever you need to drop the kids off. Yeah. So he dropped them off and ran back. Yeah. And then heard him crying, and I was back in bed.
Yeah.
I was on my bathroom floor because I was trying to get to the shower, and I just couldn't move anywhere else.
Whoa.
So I was like on all fours in the bathroom, and
wow.
He was on the bathroom floor.
And so was Holden, like, what kind of breech was he? Like, was he...
he was Frank Breech.
Frank Breech. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he was butt down, head and feet up.
Yeah.
And came out, slid right out.
Yeah, wow. Oh, my gosh.
Came out, it was just like textbook.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the video.
Yeah,
it was like textbook. Perfect for Breech, Frank Breech.
Yeah.
Like, hands off.
Yeah.
Doula was just hitting the pressure points on the back that I needed, like, the warm water for that I didn't get.
Wow. So in the end, it was just you and your doula because your friend had already left with her sons?
Yes, she just came to drop off what we needed, and then she was going to come back like after, I was just like, whatever, come over when your husband gets here. And then I texted her, I'm like, the baby's here.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And what was the like birth of the placenta like with Holden then?
It was, I feel like it came like maybe like a half hour later.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just went to bed. We did skin to skin. Sean came into bed with us, and then
and so the kids stayed next door.
Yeah, the kids stayed next door for a few hours, and then we no, lay down. It's called a speaker. Yeah, they were next door. Yeah. And then we you can go to bed if you want. You're very tired. Yeah, I would say the placenta, maybe it could have been an hour. I don't really remember how long, but it came out on its own.
Yeah.
So it was just nice. I didn't have to force it. He was still on it when it came out.
Yeah.
There were pictures that I wanted to get with him on it.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It's currently in my freezer.
Oh, that's brilliant. Did you get to take Hudson's?
Yeah, so with Hudson and Harper, I got them encapsulated.
Oh, cool.
Harper's, I feel like I took all of them, and then Hudson, I took some, but I still have some, and then this time around, because I I didn't really take Hudson's, I was like, I'll just keep it, and then maybe ferry it one day.
Yeah.
So
holy moly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so from when we called the midwives to when he was here, it was 11 minutes. Because I remember, after, I was like, wait, how long was that they didn't make it here on time? But we were on FaceTime with them, too, because Malky was like, oh, no, he's coming. They're not making it.
Yeah.
And they were 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
But,
wow.
Yeah, and then he came on FaceTime for them.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Wow. And so if you, in the future, if another baby ever did happen, would you have a free birth again, without midwives, or do you think Sean would need that? Because you essentially had 2 free births.
Yes. So this with Holden, I also tore.
Yeah.
So they stitched me up right in my bed.
Amazing.
Which was really cool. And it wasn't as severe as Hudson's.
Yeah.
And basically they just said that they would let it go, but it was right at the point where it was a little bit too much for them to feel comfortable just letting it heal on its own.
Yeah.
I told them I wanted to be realistic. I said, if you don't think it needs to be stitched, don't stitch it.
Yeah.
But if you truly believe I should get stitched, then, we'll do it. And that's what we hired them for, too.
Yeah. I also believe that some women find, especially if they've got children already, to have, because healing works so much better when you're able to rest and whatever. But when you've got other little kids running about, you're not usually able to, rest as much as you otherwise could, so it can affect the healing. So but that's individualized care, right? That's you knew what your options were, and yeah
no, definitely. So I got the stitches, and it was way better than after Hudson too. I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like because of my uterus, it needs to birth breech babies. Just healing was so much better. I was able to sit on the floor. I remember sitting on the floor right after Holden and being scared because I was so traumatized from how much pain I was in after Hudson.
Yeah.
And I remember people asking if recovery was easier after Hudson than a C-section, and even though they're both totally different recoveries, they were the same.
Yeah.
They were the same. I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but they were like the same but different.
Yeah.
Where like this time with Holden, it was definitely better than the C-section.
Yeah.
And then my VBAC with Hudson.
Yeah. I guess
actually,
perhaps also like the position that you may, or like the restriction of movement that you possibly had in the car with Hudson could have also like maybe contributed. Hey.
Yeah. And yeah, I also think like that too, because I was able to be fully on all fours at home.
Yeah.
For Holden, and it was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, with Hudson, I was definitely like a painful recovery, and I didn't rest the way I should have after him.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know about understand the first 40 days and all of that. Yeah. So this time I really I didn't do 40 days, but I did 2 days in bed.
Yeah.
And then I started to move around and actually got to a point where I was sore from not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I actually had to do up dog stretches and to stretch my core.
Yeah.
Because I was my doula came over a few days later and I was I'm really sore. And then she was stretching my body out and I was oh, she's you need to move around a little bit. So not everybody can or should, but she's you should move around a little bit because you're sore. And I wasn't sore anymore after stretching.
Yeah, wow.
Light stretches, not extreme, but
yeah.
I was I was so sore, my muscles and everything.
Yeah.
And it was just from not enough moving.
Getting around, yeah.
Which is funny. So this time I didn't have to rest as much as I should have after Hudson.
Yeah. But each one's different, right? Yeah. Holy moly. The 3 H's. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. The 3 H's.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing stories. Is there anything that you feel like we missed or anything that else you wanted to say?
Not that I could, just, if you want the birds of your dreams, just do your research and, do what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And, not everybody can do a home birth, and not because they can't or do, I just think at the end of the day, it depends on your knowledge and your comfortability and
yeah, absolutely. And how you are able to recognize how you need to work the system for yourself. And if there is ability to work the system, because sometimes the system's pretty hard to maneuver in.
Yeah, it really is. It's a crazy world.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.